Hey guys, EC Network here, coming at you with another video. So, I got HBO Max, and if you watched my previous video talking about HBO Max, you'll know I am not a huge fan of it, at least before it came out. But is that still the case? How do I feel about HBO Max at this point in time, given that I now have it? So, before I even get started, quick thing to keep in mind, I actually found out after getting a free trial that you can get HBO Max for free for life with your cable provider. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already, or if you don't have an HBO Max account, because you could possibly get it for free like I am right now. So HBO Max overall, what do I think about it? Well, I'll talk about two parts of this. First, I'll talk about the Cartoon Network aspect of it, because that's, I'm sure, what most of you care about, and then I'll talk about just the general aspect of everything else on HBO Max. So for Cartoon Network, when I first got HBO Max, it was because of Adventure Time Distant Lands, and I looked at the Cartoon Network section to see, what other shows are available on Cartoon Network. And when I started out the list, I was like, wow, this is really impressive. There's Adventure Time, Gumball, Apple and Onion, Ben 10, like all the Ben 10s. And I'm going down the list, and I'm like, wow, there's Chowder, Clarence, Craig of the Creek, Dexter's Laboratory, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. I'm like, there's shows new and old on here that I'm like, wow, do they actually have every single Cartoon Network show on here, or almost every single show? And then the list becomes thin. We go from Foster's to Flapjack, Mighty Matadors, Powerpuff Girls, both Powerpuff Girls, by the way, Regular Show the movie, Steven Universe, Uncle Grandpa, Victor and Valentino, and We Bare Bears. So initially I was really impressed to see the amounts of variety that we had on HBO Max for Cartoon Network, but then when you look at it, the list becomes very thin the further you get into the alphabet, because it's in alphabetical order. And I'm just wondering, why exactly is this the case? Quick disclaimer, Samurai Jack is on here. It is just on the Adult Swim section because of Season 5. And speaking of the Adult Swim section, if you thought Cartoon Network section was thin, the Adult Swim section is even thinner than that. And like I was saying, it makes me think why. Because they have, Warner Media that is, has this huge library of Cartoon Network shows from over the past 20 years that they can pull from and use on this streaming service, and for whatever reason they didn't. And that's really mind-boggling to me, why you would be launching a brand new streaming service and you're not pulling from your huge library of shows that you have for the past 20 years. I look at Disney Plus. Disney Plus launched, and what did it do? It took pretty much everything it possibly could from its library of content and put it on the streaming service, excluding stuff like newer Star Wars movies, newer Marvel movies that are currently being licensed to other streaming services. But basically, for the most part, everything that Disney had streaming rights to went on their streaming service. And that's the way it should be. I know HBO Max is only a month old, but they should have launched it with, if not all of their intellectual properties, then most of their intellectual properties. But looking at the Cartoon Network section and the Adult Swim section, there's a lot missing, and honestly, I don't understand why. Like I said before, we're only a month into this service, so maybe they'll add all these shows in the future. But like, for example, when I found out I have this service for free, I'm like, awesome, I can watch Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy from start to finish, because that's something I want to do. Codenames Kids Next Door, another show I want to watch start to finish. But those shows aren't there. And like I just said before, why? Why aren't they there? You own these intellectual properties, put them on your streaming service. Now, my second part of this is just in general, how is HBO Max as a service content-wise? So I was going through a lot of the movies, and I've got to say, majority of them are like 30, 40 years old. Like, there are some really, really old movies on this service, and there's not as much newer stuff on there. Like, yeah, they have all the 8 Harry Potter movies. Okay, great. I saw those a few weeks ago, though. They have some of the new DC movies, but is anybody really knocking down their door to see that? Plus which fact, they don't even have the Dark Knight trilogy, which I don't understand why. Why is that not on your streaming service, but Batman vs. Superman is? And something else I just thought of, back to the cartoon aspect of things, The Looney Tunes show is on HBO Max, which is fantastic. Again, if you haven't seen the Looney Tunes show, watch it on HBO Max. But what's interesting to me is, why do you have the Looney Tunes show but not Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated? This is what I mean, where it just doesn't really make much sense what is on the streaming service and what isn't on the streaming service. I just feel like it should be your entire library, not just titles that you just chose a handful out of your pool of shows and said, oh, these we're going to include and these we're not going to include. Like, for example, again, they have stuff from DC Universe on there, like Doom Patrol, but there's no Young Justice, which doesn't really make much sense to me at all. Anyways, those are my overall thoughts on HBO Max. Would I recommend it to anybody? Absolutely not. But if you can get it for free through your cable provider, then absolutely go for it. But like I was saying before, it's just that Warner Media has a huge library to pull from for this streaming service, but yet for whatever reason, they're only choosing a handful of shows or a handful of movies. And that's something that I really don't understand, and hopefully, being that this service is only a month old, hopefully this all changes in the future. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below if you have HBO Max and what you think about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.